What is up, noobs and noobettes? Charles Tingley here, and welcome to episode 5 of Is It Actually Epic? This is a series where I review all the epic prototypes in Infinite Warfare, give you the pros and cons of each, recommend the class setup, and then the question you've all been waiting for: is it worth you spending your hard-earned salvage on the prototype? So without further ado, let's jump straight into the traits. Okay, so the ERAD Cyclopean, here it is right here. Its first trait is particle beam. This is what turns it into a laser beam, which is pretty fucking epic. And its second trait is focus, which gives you reduced idle sway while aiming down sight. And this is definitely very handy, and you guys will find out why later in the video. Now let's jump into some gameplay and talk about the pros and cons. Alrighty, let's get it started with the pros of this weapon. So firstly, this thing is a melt machine, man. Much like the base variant, the ERAD Cyclopean absolutely melts, and it definitely rewards accuracy. If you can keep that beam constantly on target, you'll be melting everybody, and it definitely makes it really easy to take on multiple enemies. Next up is the combination of a reduced idle sway and a manageable recoil. This makes this weapon a lot more lethal at longer ranges, and it's pretty much lethal at all ranges, guys. Short range, medium range, and even long range if you can keep your shot on target, and this is insane. As I said, it's an ERAD on steroids, man. This thing definitely melts, and you'll definitely notice me getting some long range kills in the gameplay. Next up, and this one definitely sucks if you're on the receiving end, but when someone is shooting at you with the Cyclopean, you kind of get blinded a little, man. It kind of throws you off, and it definitely does make it harder for you to keep your shot on target, so this makes it very intimidating. Building off this, because you are able to blind the enemy, and this weapon is definitely intimidating when you hear someone in the lobby using it, just makes it a lot easier to take on multiple enemies. Partnering this with the fact that it absolutely melts, don't be surprised when you're finding yourself getting 2, 3, even 4 feeds, 5, whatever it is, man. Depends how you're playing the map, but honestly guys, this gun is a beast. And the next thing, and this is definitely a big bonus for this weapon, it's the fact that the hipfire is pretty much almost as accurate as when you're aiming down sight. You'll notice it in the gameplay, man. Hipfire kills are just really easy to get. In fact, the beam actually bends towards the enemy a little, so this definitely helps and definitely does look pretty fucking epic when you're shooting at the enemies. And also, the last pro I wanted to mention is the fact that this thing is pretty much a mini Steel Dragon. For those of you that don't know what the Steel Dragon is, it's basically the laser beam payload of the Mercury, and this thing is pretty much that, but to be honest, I would say it's even better at closer ranges, which is pretty insane. The only difference between the two that I'd say is the fact that the Cyclopean can't chain onto 2 enemies or 3, or however much the Steel Dragon can chain onto. And obviously this has to be the case, or else this would pretty much be the most OP weapon in the game. But yeah, man, it's pretty much that payload, but in a smaller version, and in my opinion it's better, man. You have a faster movement speed, it's more lethal at closer range, and yeah, I don't know what else to say about this weapon, man. It definitely has a lot of pros about it. And I know what you're thinking. Hey Tingley, you've been talking this weapon up so fucking much. Surely there's some bad things about it. And yes guys, there definitely is. So firstly, although this weapon is a melt machine just like the base model, it definitely has a different damage profile, and this is something you definitely need to keep in mind, guys. Basically, the particle beam isn't similar to how bullets are. It's basically shooting a continuous stream of very weak bullets, and this basically means if you're missing any of the beam, you'll definitely be penalized for this, and you want to avoid this at all costs. So the first negative about this thing is that you need to be really accurate. You'll definitely notice that if you are missing some of the particle beam in the gunfight, you'll be punished for this, guys. You'll definitely be finished off, and this can become frustrating at times. The next thing I wanted to mention, and I'm not too sure if you guys can notice it in the gameplay, but you definitely run out of bullets really quickly, guys. So you definitely have to conserve your ammo. You need to pick your gunfights wisely, and you need to expect to run out of ammo a lot in gunfights. This definitely can catch you off guard at times, and you'll think you still have a lot of bullets in the gun, and it'll just finish just like that, man. So definitely keep an eye out for your ammo count, and make sure you're choosing your gunfights wisely. And unfortunately, you can't put extended mags on energy weapons, and in my opinion, having the fusion mag doesn't really help, because when you actually do come to shoot, you just waste so many bullets and you fly through your bullets so quickly that the fusion mag can't even keep up. So in my opinion, it's not really worth using that. And the last thing I wanted to mention, and this is definitely the biggest negative about this weapon, and it's the fact that you can't have a silencer on it. In all honesty, if you could have a silencer, it would be pretty silly because let's face it, there's a fucking particle beam flying out of your gun, so yeah, it would be pretty silly. But yeah, if you're someone that likes to be stealthy and constantly flank the enemy and pride yourself on the fact that you're always able to sneak around with the silencer and pick people off guard, then this is not the weapon for you, man. This thing is loud. You can't silence this thing, man. Honestly, I could probably hear someone in fucking Europe here using this thing if they were using this weapon. Honestly, that's how fucking loud it is. You can pretty much hear someone using this from across the map, so you definitely need to keep this in mind, man. Everyone's going to be out to get you. They're definitely going to be able to hear you coming, so you've got to be a lot more cautious with this weapon and definitely need to choose your gunfights a lot better, man. This thing is loud as fuck. Alrighty, now that we've covered the pros and cons, let's move on to my recommended class setup. So you guys know what the first attachment's going to be. It's always got to be quick draw, guys. It's always advantageous for you to be able to snap targets and get that first shot on. So definitely equip that quick draw. And next up, I would recommend using particle amp. This would basically just extend your damage range and it'll allow you to be more lethal at a longer range. And it definitely does come in handy, and it definitely is a good alternative for the fact that you can't use a silencer up in this bitch. And the last attachment is definitely up to you guys. I would recommend using either stock or foregrip. I personally use stock because combination of the reduced idle sway and the fact that I can strafe in gunfights makes me a very difficult target, and it also allows me to keep my shot on target. On the other hand, this thing does have a bit of recoil, and some people might find that it's not that manageable. So if you're one of these people, don't be shy to slap on that foregrip. It'll reduce the recoil for you, and it'll make it a lot easier for you to keep your shot on target. And as I mentioned before, because it is a particle beam, you want to try to keep your shot on target as much as possible. This weapon definitely rewards you for keeping your shot on target, and if you're able to do so, everyone's in the lobby is going to hate you, dude. You're going to be loud, you're going to be obnoxious, and you're going to be melting everybody. And now the question you've all been waiting for, is it worth you spending your hard-earned 4,000 salvage on this thing? Fuck yes, dude. If you think otherwise, you are nothing short of a silly goose, dude. This thing absolutely melts. You can take on multiple enemies like it's nothing. You can pick people off from range, man. I don't know if you guys are noticing it in the gameplay, but honestly, some of these kills I'm getting should not be possible with an SMG. But granted, this thing is a fucking particle beam, so it's not any regular SMG. But yeah, man, if you can keep your shot on target, you can map people with this thing. It is fucking insane, and it is definitely one of the most fun weapons to use in the game. Honestly, in my opinion, it is probably in the top 2 epic variants in the game. That's how overpowered it is, and honestly, its only setback is the fact that you can't put a silencer on it. I know how you feel, man. I'm definitely a player that likes to be stealthy and constantly catch people off guard and pick off those free kills, and unfortunately you can't do that with this thing, and that is why you notice me try-harding my ass off in the gameplay, because you always need to be ready to take on that next enemy, because as I mentioned, guys, this thing is loud as fuck and people will hear you from fucking Antarctica up in this bitch, man. You definitely want to make sure you're maneuvering the map in a way where you can dip into cover as quickly as possible and you're not just out in the open like a sitting duck, because if they're not seeing your particle beam, they're definitely going to hear you, man. And the great thing about this weapon, and I'm not the only one that feels this way, is that it is really intimidating, man. Whenever there is someone using this weapon in the game, it is scary as hell, dude. You just hear him coming closer and closer and you're just shitting yourself pretty much. And you know for a damn fact, when you get into a gunfight with this thing, you need to be on point, man. If someone is using this against you and you're not being accurate as fuck, or you didn't get the first shot, then odds are you're gonna die, dude. This thing absolutely melts, and in my opinion, it melts even more than the base variant, as long as you're keeping that particle beam on target, man. And yeah, dude, so that's my review of the ERAD, man. In my opinion, it's the best all-round epic weapon in the game. If not, then probably the second best. But yeah, man, it is definitely something that you should eventually spend your salvage on, or hopefully you can get it in supply drops. This is definitely one of my favorite guns in the game, and it'll always be a set class for me. So yeah, man, I don't know how much more I can talk this weapon up, guys. It is definitely one of the best guns in the game, and you guys should definitely try it eventually. If not getting it yourself, then definitely pick it up if you notice someone has it in your game. And just wreck everybody with it, man. This thing absolutely shreds, man. Either way, guys, that's pretty much it for this video, man. Hopefully you did enjoy this review and the gameplay. If you did, make sure you hit that like. Always like seeing those like numbers increase. You guys are awesome. Keep up the support. If you're new to this channel and you did enjoy this or found it useful in any way, make sure you hit that subscribe, man. Gonna be doing every weapon in the game, so definitely something to look forward to. God damn, I gotta catch my breath. But yeah, man, if you have any questions about this weapon or you have an idea of which weapon you want me to do next, let me know in the comment section below and I'll get on that shit ASAP. But that's pretty much it for this video. Don't forget to rate it and leave a comment. I'll catch you all in the next one. Until next time, peace out, noobs.